name is Mark Dinzer, and Halito means hello in Choctaw, but my friend here is from Batchewana up in Ontario, and basically he lives in northern Minnesota. I met him through a friend, and basically I was, kind of like, the Indian community is a real small community if you know people in certain circles, and when you're seeking out help or you're seeking out friendship, certain thing, that's how you kind of connect. And those things, they just kind of, if you need them, they kind of appear, right? So anyway, so I went up to Jay's place, and this is his wife and his 2 children, Sweetie and Nico and Leah. And basically I went up there last year, and they put me out to fast, and they call it eagle fasting, where you go up in stilts and you fast for 2 or 3 days or 4 days or whatever it is, and they just helped me heal with some things. And so ever since we've kept in touch, and he's, so we brought him down here on the account of, doing this presentation, and he just finished his book, and I thought, well, Native American history is Native American heritage, Native American culture, all those things that we speak about, they're really important, and I don't just seek anybody out and just pick from a crowd of any random guy. Like, Jay has gifts that I spent a lot of time in Indian communities around the country, and Jay and what he does for a living helps people in his communities. He travels from all over Canada, all over the United States, Great Lakes area, helping his Ojibway communities, and he's going to talk about basically what he does and how his book came into being, and his kind of his story of real resiliency, basically. And he brought another member of his family, his drum, and he does have a seat at the table, the way I understand it. He brought his pipe, and basically, welcome Jay Bird, and appreciate you coming all the way down. Oh, which.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Greer. I'm the Executive Director for the Student Multicultural Resource Center. So excited to have Jay Bird with us to kick off our Native American Heritage Month. Looking forward to just learning more about the history and the culture of Native American, Indigenous people. And so I also would like to thank all of you for joining us today. In just a minute, the Vice Chancellor for ADE&I is going to come say a very short welcome, and then we're going to be well on our way, and he's coming now. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Paul Frazier.
How you doing? Thank you for joining us. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Everybody still asleep? So I want to thank our guests, and I want to welcome each of you as we begin our Native American Heritage Month. As we celebrate the different cultures in each Heritage Month, I always say this, that we should take time to celebrate our rich cultures and our rich history, not in a particular month. It should not ever be encapsulated in a particular month, but it should be celebrated over the course of time. So with that being said, we want to welcome you back as many times as you'd like to join us, as we learn more about this region and learn more about Native American cultures. Thank you guys for joining us. I hope you're able to participate in the rest of the events we have this month, and continue to join us as we embrace different months each year. And I think about it like our semester is already over, so we'll just start this again in January and keep celebrating. Thank you.
My name is Guyon, Aanakwadoon and Jiisikaan. My name is Thunder Dames. And Jiisikaan Conductor. I am a Jiisikaan Conductor, an Ojibway Jiisikaan Conductor. Bawatin and Ojibwa. I'm from the Rapids, meaning Sault Sainte Marie Ontario, Sault Sainte Marie, Michigan, the Rapids there, St. Mary's. And I am from the Bear Clan. You know, the book that we're here for today, it almost never happened. It was events throughout my life that brought this whole idea together. And the events themselves, some of which are unbelievable. At times I thought, you know, this has to be in a book because people just won't believe that, that it happened the way it did. It's amazing. So the story is about, you know, relationship more than anything, endurance, resiliency, you know, overcoming, adapting, surviving. If I could say one word, it's survival, is what the story is about. The survival of this pipe, the survival of the ceremonies in my family and my community. So, you know, about 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer in my throat, and it wasn't my first time of cancer. I think it was my third time with cancer in a bad way, you know. So we found out late, and they had said that, you know, my time is very limited. I need to get my affairs in order. So my first thought was all the stuff that I've experienced and things that I want to share. What do I do with this? You know, I don't want to bring it with me. I don't want it to be lost. And I was thinking about my family and my kids. So we started recording videos of my experiences through life and what brought me to where I am today. You know, thinking that at that time I only had 3 or 4 months to live, because that's what they had told me at the cancer place. So that's when the push for the book first came. You know, it wasn't for me to be known or to spread out anything. It was to leave something behind for my family and my kids. That's the only reason why I did that. You know, I knew there would be backlash about what I put in the book and what I shared, and, you know, stuff that shouldn't be talked about, and I didn't care. I didn't care about any of that. I just wanted my personal experiences to be recorded, and that was it. And the most important part was my relationship with the spirits, and my relationship especially with this pipe, and the journey that both of us went through to be here today. So the book, you know, our first version came out, and I had help. Taking a Global helped me with the book, and they assigned a writer to help me with this. So the first version that came, it didn't sound like me at all. It wouldn't sound like me talking. So that version was scrapped. And the second version came, and they had taken out a bunch of parts that I thought were important. And then I just kind of started losing faith in the whole project. Like, this is not going to happen. This is not going to be a thing. So Allison Tedford, she emailed me and said, hey, I have a couple of paragraphs I'd like to send you, and just read those and tell me what you think. So I did, and the 2 paragraphs, I'm sure it was page 28 in this book. it overwhelmed me the day I read it, and all I remember now is what I felt and not what I was reading, because of what it did to me. But it was Niishawswea Aanakwadoon, my pint. She wrote the book in a two narrative. So I'm speaking about a life experience, and then he's speaking about his version of this same experience. And it was his version in those paragraphs that I read, and it just touched me profoundly because it was him. It sounded exactly like he does to me when I hear him. And I immediately burst into tears because I could feel him speaking through that lady. And I called her and I said, this is awesome. You know, I don't know what you're gonna write, or you just do you for that. And so the only corrections that were made in the final draft was just stuff from my side, you know, spelling errors and things that I added in, but everything that came through her in the book was exactly like this pipe was speaking through her, and it was perfect to me, exactly how I know him. So our relationship begins back in 1850, but more so before that, relatives before me. This pipe was made in 1610, and 1638 was first contact for the area where I live. It was the French that came. So if you imagine from 1610 to 1638, this pipe only knew our stuff. It was only strictly Ojibway doing Ojibway things, you know, so he had been around from the beginning till today, through everything that my whole community and our neighbors went through, witnessed. All of the healing ceremonies, all of the events, this pipe was there. And, you know, handed down through generation. So he was first made by my relative named Bimzad Anum, which means a star that flies, a flying star. Today we would compare that to a satellite, you know, a slow-moving star. And later in the 1700s, the lead was added on from melted down musket balls. And so 1850, my community was in negotiations with the British Crown for our treaty arrangements where we live, particularly the minerals and land rights where we live. So because we were assisted in the War of 1812, we were able to negotiate our terms. So there was no anybody telling us what we're having. We negotiated what we thought was best for us. So some of that was royalties, payments, portions from annuities from the land. You know, we would get a payment every year. Some of it was our hunting and fishing areas. So a lot of our area is what's called crown land, you know, owned by the government. Here I usually like state land, same idea. Not just onto our reservation area. We still kept our territories, basically, is what I'm saying. And we were free to hunt and fish anywhere in those territories, you know, whenever we needed to. So, you know, my family really thought at the time in 1850, it was called the Robinson-Huron Treaty. And we signed it at Hudson Bay Outpost, right at Baoting in the Rapids, where this was found. So that was our meeting area, it was our trading area. You know, it was bustling there, it was right in the middle of the Great Lakes, is where we're from. It's a busy place. You know, just south of us is the Mackinac Strait. You know, there was another big fort there, Fort Mackinac. We did a lot of things there too, my community. So 1850, we negotiated our terms and we signed the Robinson-Huron Treaty thinking, you know, we're gonna walk with our new neighbors, the settlers. We're gonna walk in parallel with these guys and life is going to be good. We really thought that. And we really believed that. And as a show of good faith, many people in my community, they got rid of their sacred items, you know, to take on Christianity, you know, to show that, hey, we're with you on this. We mean our word, you know, signing with you that we're gonna walk this new way now. And, you know, there was a few in my community that were hesitant. And luckily for us, my family was one of them. So the order of how things worked when we did our treaty was, you know, we signed with the Crown representative, and then we signed with a Jesuit. They would change our name if they couldn't say it, or, you know, they would just translate it to something that was able to be understood. And then there was the church. And then after that, there was a big hole at the end of the tables where everyone threw their sacred items into a big pit. So the idea was, you know, they're burning this after we finish this. And we're going this new route now. So my relative went to the other side of the island and built this cache, this rock cache in the river, and put this pipe in there, underwater. Covered it all up. And there it stayed until 1923. An archaeologist was doing a dig because of the Robinson-Huron Treaty was signed there, but also because of the Hudson Bay outpost that was there. He was looking for artifacts from the outpost, you know, which had long been gone. And the river had, you know, subsided, but then he found this. He found a cache, and he found this pipe in there. And, you know, the stem that was with it, the wooden stem, was gone. It had deteriorated into dirt. And the leather bag that was around it had deteriorated, you know, but the pipe part was still there. And actually it was still packed with tobacco. And it was, that's why he found just this part, you know, and the rest was just went back to the earth. And it was, you know, the beauty that he'd seen in this, he kept it in his private collection. So he had it from 1923 to 1950. He passed away. His family donated his whole collection to the museum in Sault Sainte Marie Ontario, now owned by the government. And that's where it stayed, in a glass case, under a light, you know, on display. So, I forget what year it was exactly. I was 7, so 1982. Me and my cousin ride our bicycles in the town, and we went out and check out the Ojibway section of the museum. It's free back then. And back then, you know, as long as you were home by supper time or when the street lights came on, you were okay to go wherever you wanted back then. So we went into town. It was like a 20-minute bike ride, and we went to the museum. And the Ojibway section was upstairs. So we went up the stairs and we were looking at the artifacts they had there. I walked over to that glass case with the light on it, and this pipe was in there. And I looked at it and my hair stood up on the back of my neck. And I just had a chill going through me. And it was kind of awkward and uncomfortable. And I said to my cousin, come on, let's go, let's get out of here. So we went home, back to the reservation, and I lived with my grandparents. My mother struggled with addiction and alcoholism. So my sister and I spent the majority of our younger years, preteen years, with my grandparents. So we grew up with fluent Ojibway speaking in the house. We would speak English back, but they never spoke English. And I told my grandma, I told her where we went and what I'd seen in the case, and she said, "Oh, that's Ben's Auditor's pipe. That was your relative. That was his. You know, now go outside and play. I'll call you when it's supper time." Like, that was it. You know, and I was okay with that. That made me feel better. My grandma told me something that made me feel good, and that's all that mattered. You know, I went out to play. And I never thought any more about it. So, you know, I would dream about it from time to time, like every 4 or 6 years, I would dream about this pipe. And I thought it was only because I had seen it, you know, only because I had been there as a kid and I'd looked at it. That's why I'm dreaming about this thing. It's not anything special. And I would also dream about shake tent ceremony, which I, you know, didn't know much about as a youth, and not something that I planned on ever wanting to do. You know, growing up, I did enough, you know, of ceremonies stuff. I did kind of just enough to keep people off my back, you know, not get in trouble. Okay, he's over at the fasting, or he's up and that's whatnot, or, you know, I was out, but I wasn't really out. So, you know, it was like that for me. I respected our cultural stuff and our ceremony life, but I never wanted to be up front. I never wanted to be the guy, because that just wasn't a lot of mine. So, you know, in my 30s, everything came to a stop. I had gone through a whole bunch of things in my life. One was a major accident in 2000. I was ejected from a vehicle and I had broke my C1, 2 thorax, 3 lumbars, shattered my shoulder, broke my arm and both legs all at the same time. So I'm paralyzed in this hospital, and some family and friends, I had these 2 healers come doctor me in the hospital. I was at Watertown General Hospital in New York. And these 2 guys came and they were doing their thing, and I don't remember a whole lot about it. I was on, you know, morphine and Demerol and stuff, but I remember them being there. And I particularly remember the old guy saying to me, "You know, you'll be back to work in a year from now." And I couldn't move. All I could do was speak and move my right hand. That's all I was able to do. I was paralyzed. I had, you know, the life seemed to be over for me. But that old guy said that, "Oh, you're fine. You'll be fine." And he was right. A year later to the day, I was hired at a job again, trucking, you know, driving a truck, light duty stuff, but I was up walking around and almost back to normal again. You know, 4 or 5 years after that, people didn't even know that I had suffered an accident that way. And so, you know, I lived in the trucking world until 2009. Things started going bad, and things weren't really going bad because economy, like I can't blame the economy or decisions that other people made. It went bad because of me and my poor decisions, and the value of what I put were important, the things. You know, I put everything before my family, but my kids, my own health. You know, business was more important to me than anything. And it just stopped one day. Everything came crashing down, and then I had nothing. And I went home. I went home to Batchewana, I went home to Balatin.
I need to get some.
And you know, it was a struggle. I was trying to learn, who am I? What am I going to do now? How do I identify? I don't know who I am. The skills that I was good at don't apply here, and that's how am I going to live? You know. So, you know, there was a time, my first time there was more recovery and just getting healthy again. And I took a ride to the museum one afternoon just to keep myself busy instead of sitting idle at home. You know, my mind started to race about things. And I went up to that museum where I had seen this pipe. And I walked in and the curator was kind of doing something off to the side. He's, oh, welcome, you know. And I walked by him and I went upstairs and I walked into the Ojibway section. And I walked over to the corner and that case was still in the exact same place. You know, this is now, you know, 20-something years later. And I walked up to it and it was still, nothing had changed. It's like time was just, didn't affect that place. And I walked up to the case and I looked down and I had that feeling again, and I just broke down and started to cry. And I thought, you know, this is my midlife crisis. This is my breakdown. From all the stuff I'm dealing with, you know, my business and my family, and this is it. It's happening right now. It has nothing to do with this. It's all my other stuff. That's what I was telling myself. So I left. And I went to the health center where my community. And there was a guy I talked to there on a regular basis. He wasn't there. There was another lady there that I knew growing up. Traditional lady, she was a counselor. Not particularly somebody I would go visit on a regular basis, but it was somebody. So I went and seen her. And I went in her office and I gave her tobacco and told her what was going on. Told her what my grandma had told me when I was a kid. Told her how I felt when I'd seen this. And told her how I was feeling now. I needed somebody to make me feel better because at that time I did not have the skills, you know, to make myself feel okay. I needed help with that. I couldn't do it. And she said, well, you know, those items don't belong to non-natives, they belong to us. And if you did a heist, I would not be stealing, she said. I'm thinking, that's not what I want to hear, I want you to make me feel better, you know? And I just, you know, no wonder I never go see this lady. And I just said, okay, miigwech, you know, thank you. I said it in Ojibway. And I left, and I went outside of my car in the parking lot, and I thought, man, this is not how I need to be feeling right now. I still need something to help me. So I went to the store and I bought some tobacco. And I went right back up to the museum that afternoon. And I walked in and the curator was standing there, like he was waiting for me. He said, oh, you're back. And I went to hand him that tobacco with my left hand. And I was getting choked up. You know, I was just an emotional wreck. I could hardly even talk. And he could see me struggling, and he's all, come on, let me come in my office and we'll talk about it in here. He had seen me, by the way, when I left earlier that day. All upset. So I said, there's an item upstairs that's upsetting me, and people in my community, elders, you know, cultural people, are telling me to steal it. And his eyes got all big, and he's all, why you just ruined your chances of that? You know, and I'm like, no, and I couldn't think in those few moments what to say. other than I said to him, I think you should take it out of the case and lock it in the back. That's the only thing I could think of at that moment to help it, was to make the decision, never see it again. And when I said that, I felt immediate loss, like a relative just passed, or my best friend just left, or someone had just died. I felt overwhelmed and just crushed when I said that, knowing, okay, it's gonna be all right, but I won't see this ever again. But hey, that's the best I can do right now, and I can live with that. So he said, let me look up the history on the index cards we have about the pipe, and that's how we know about, 1923, and the archaeologists and stuff was from that. And I said, no, I don't even want to know anything about it. And I got up and I walked out, and out the front door, and I get in my car, and I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking, man, why is life so hard right now? I come home and I'm trying to do good things and help out, and I was helping out at sweat lodges again and ceremony stuff and doing, good things. I thought it was the best that I could do, and it was just difficult. And I did not want to be home anymore. In my mind, I thought right then and there, I want to get out of here. Never mind this cultural stuff. I just want to go back trucking something that I know and something I was good at, and just feel good again. Because this does not feel good, and I don't want this in my life. I don't want to feel like this. This is not why I came home. So, in the back of my mind, that was my plan. I just didn't have money to do it. So, I was trying to save money. And my cousin Mike was the go-to guy, for sweat lodges and ceremony stuff. Everyone kind of come over to his place for when they needed something. And Mike was always calling me, come on over, help me with rocks, and let's go pick medicines, and, fix up my sweat lodge area. We're always doing something. And he knew I was struggling, and he was doing his best to keep me busy. And I'm thankful he did, because I probably would have left, took off. So, 3 months goes by, and they were hard. It was not a fun 3 months at all for me. Not only was this happening, but there was my sister and her family, who I was staying with, were dealing with devastating information also. It was hard. So, I'm at Mike's one day and the phone rings, and it's Chief and Council on the phone, and they're looking for me. Because they knew I'd either be at Karen's, at Mike's, or, out and about. There was only like 3 places where I'd go, and I didn't have cell phones. So they called there, and he's like, yeah, he's here. Well, tell him to come over, we're at council right now, and we want to see you. So he's like, okay, and we got rocks in the fire, and we're going to have this lodge ready for these people. And he's like, how long are you going to need? I'm like, I don't know. I don't remember applying for any jobs or anything. I don't know why they want to see me. He's like, what'd you do? What'd you do? I'm like, I don't know. And then I'm driving over there and I'm thinking, what am I going to get in trouble for? What did they find out that I don't remember? So, I was expecting to get hit for something. And I go in there and I walk in the front doors and I open the chamber doors, and my chief, Dean Sayers, is wearing his ceremonial chief hat. It's like a birch bark thing, and it's all eagle feathers standing up. And he has that on, and I'm thinking, why is he wearing that in a council meeting for? And then I looked at the table, and this pipe was sitting on the table. And I just froze. And he stood up. And he looked at me and said, you know, we're giving this to you at Nanabusha, our ceremony grounds this fall. You're gonna go fasting for 4 days with them. You know, make your pipe bag and get ready, because after that, you're gonna start helping us with this. It's time for you now. And I was just, you know, overwhelmed. I just said, okay, yeah. Not knowing anything. What am I going to be doing with this? I have no idea. You know, I don't even know anything. I'll just say, okay, you know, I'll do whatever. And so that's how that all came to be. You know, but there's centuries for events that had happened to bring us together. You know, when we say pipe in Ojibway, you know, it breaks down. It just doesn't mean pipe. You know, Dokwagan, Dodo refers to mother, like the earth. You know, Wa is a light, refers to your spirit light. It's in a lot of our Ojibwe words. You know, deer is Wa Waskash. And Wase is lightning, refers to the light. So Dopwa, a gun is an action. I am this light in this object from our mother, the earth. Meaning, when you smoke your pipe, your spirit and the pipe spirit become one together. You know each other. You know each other's light. And you're both from the earth. That's what pipe means to us in Ojibway. And that's exactly what has happened with him and I. You know, it's been 14 years now since that happened. You know, I thought when that first happened I would just be a pipe guy in the community, like sunrise ceremony once in a while, or somebody come over to the house for a question, you know. No. You know, now today, my family and I, we've been to almost every Ojibway reservation in the United States and Canada. And there are a few that we are back on a monthly basis. We work for the health centers. Usually, for many of them, it's the addiction part of the health center. So we do a lot of work with addiction and mental health, using our ceremonies and our cultural knowledge to help people get well again, like happened with me. So, I skipped over a bunch of stuff, but it's in the book. You know, so the book is really our relationship. You know, how Niishawswea Aanikwaadoon, which means 7 clouds. You know, I don't know if it was kind of a hidden thing we did on the cover. It's hidden under the water, 7 clouds waiting for thunder days. So 7 clouds is the pipe. My name is Thunder Days. It's a story of how he waited for me. You know, how he let me go through my experiences until I was ready. And now we're together. You know, and at some point, you know, I can't even imagine what's after me with him. You know, everyone that is carrying him before me, I felt how I do about him and what he can do. You know, he leads us everywhere we go. It's always him. He knows what's going on before I do. I'm always figuring it out second hand. He knows already. I just kind of put the pieces together as I go along. That's how life has been. So, you know, being a shake tent person is not something that I could have apprenticed or learned about. It's inherent, it's in our bloodline. And that's how this happened. So everyone before me who had this pipe is a blood relative of mine, back to when he was me. You know, through ceremony and knowledge now today, I understand, you know, the spirit that occupies this pipe was with us, you know, centuries before. It's only around 1600, 1610, when he took the form of this pipe. He decided that it was better suited for us, the amount and the type of healing that we're going to be doing. For him to be in that pipe would be the best way for us to work. Before that, he was just a spirit that traveled and visited, people, how we often experience. So he's been in this pipe since then, 414 years. And, just when I think I have things under wraps, or okay, I'm used to the routine of how things are going, something new happens. And I'm learning all over again. Or I'm seeing the same thing from a different angle now. And I was like, wow, I thought I knew this, but I don't know this. And I'm learning about it all over again. So I don't think I'll ever get to like an elder status where I know everything about stuff. That'll never happen. There's so much to learn. And there's so many variations of things that I'll never know, I'll be just glad sharing what I do understand, which, isn't much. But, so I took my obligation seriously that day in the band office when I said to my community I would do this, which brought me here today. The way things work, they know where I am and what I'm doing and where I'm working. They have a say. And it's kind of a two-way thing, People can call back there and say, hey, he was over down here and we're upset with him. Well, then I'd be in trouble, right? But it's also people can call there and say, hey, who's this guy? And they'll tell you, because they're supporting me. They know me. So it's kind of a two-way thing for me. I haven't had anybody throw me under the bus yet. But yeah. I was looking through the book the other day, trying to find, significant sections in here to speak about or to focus on. And I thought, okay, I'll circle the information and I'll put a star on top of the page. And all the pages there had stars on them. It was really hard for me to pick one out more than the other, because the way it all flows together in line, it's all equally important. But there is one paragraph on page 28 that Allison had written, get my glasses, that really struck me. And again, I think it was part of those two first paragraphs that she had sent me in the beginning that really caught my attention. Okay. So, this is about when I was in the museum and I was having my breakdown, looking through the glass. So this is Niishawswea talking about his part of that day, his experience. Feeling the heaviness of Jay's heart, I knew he could feel the connection that he could sense, the way we are tied together. I felt his love through the glass and the conflict that tore at his insides as he walked away. He did not yet understand our connection, and the strength of it was dizzying. Thinking of the pain and grief in his face as he struggled to accept the loss he felt, he had no right to feel. I held him in my spirit tightly, willing him to find the strength for the journey that would follow. Holy, when I read that, it just reassured how much he loves me. Like reading it in person, or rather than just feeling it. You know, for us as Ojibway people, we believe that everything is living, almost everything, has a spirit. You know, rocks, pipes, sacred items. They are just as important and have just as much life as we do. And we treat them accordingly. You know, and that's how I always felt about this. But when I read that paragraph coming from somewhere else about that connection, and it just went right through me, like he does. You know, I have so much love for this, right, in our relationship. We are one now. You know, like the word in Ojibway for pipe, we are one now. I am him and he is me. And it's easy to work together now. You know, when I first was getting to know him, it was slow and it was long and it took a while for me to understand, you know, am I hearing things or am I making up stuff in my head, or, you know, is this real? I had all those thoughts too. But over time, as our relationship developed, I knew when it was him. And I knew when it was me thinking things. I was able to start telling the difference. And now, you know, there are many times where he'll just sit in his bag. We don't even have to take him out. People will come and ask their stuff, and, you know, it's 24/7 our connection now. I know what he's thinking, I know what he's saying, and he knows what I'm thinking. Without even having to put tobacco in and do our routine, you know, to get things. We don't even need to do that anymore. We're just connected. And, you know, it's an awesome feeling. It's a feeling that I thought that would never be something that I would ever have, or even wanted. You know, my whole life until he came. The question I started asking myself after he came, how did I live this long without this? How did I make it this long in life without this helping? Or having this type of spirit helping me walk through life? It's a miracle. Now that I know what this feels like, how did I do that? You know, but you know, it says in the book how he was kind of helping me along behind the scenes all those years. Yeah. So, Hidden Under the Water, the title of the book refers to the mountain where I'm from, but more so specifically the place where he was set. So my wife and I, we bring him back to that spot every year. We go home, and I set him in the water. And, you know, I had mentioned before once to her, it's like a kid playing in the water, or ducks, you know, like just peaceful. But I was not even, it was more than that. He was visiting the water spirits that he had spent so many years with before, the ones that lived with him while he was underwater. Me not even knowing, you know, that I brought him to visit. I'm just thinking I'm just doing that. That's how I'm learning stuff. I'm doing things like that are important, and I learn about it later. It's neat how life is unfolding like that for us. You know, the more that we're learning about him and what he can do and who he knows and how he cares for our people. But more importantly, everyone on earth. It's not just for Ojibway people. You know, if you have a light, then he's there to help you, your spirit. All spirits are the same. You know, you put a bunch of our spirit lights in a room, shut off the lights, we all look the same. You can't tell who's who. That's how he sees the room of people. You know, He doesn't see faces and where you're from, he just sees your life. And he's taught me that. Spirit, light. You know, if we've all been touched by Creator, or God, whatever you want to call our higher power, we have light from that. And His place is to help us navigate through life, finishing what we need to do here on earth, you know, as easy and as lovingly as we can. That's His reason of being and mine now too. Yeah. You know, I don't own a ribbon shirt or any fancy stuff. Funny thing, when this was all starting, my sister made me a ribbon shirt. Well, she started to make me a ribbon shirt. And it took her about 6 years to make it. So by the time she was done, it didn't fit me. It was way too small. So I didn't have a shirt again, and then she started making another one. This was maybe 8-9 years ago now. And it's not done either. So, you know, I'm just me. I'm not anything out of the ordinary. I'm just doing what I can when I said I would do, you know, help people. And that's my main objective. It's not being known for this, it's not, you know, popularity, it's the work that we're doing is the main thing. Yeah, and I could be a positive influence for my children. Yeah. I feel like I've been talking long. Does anybody have any questions about anything? Yeah.
You started off talking about, I don't know, how many years ago was it that you had cancer and you were only given a few months to live? Now, you had the pipe at that point in your life, didn't you, or not?
Yes.
Okay. So do you attribute your healing to, how did that all happen?
Okay, that's a good question. Actually, I've had major cancer like 3 times since I've had him.
Okay.
But the last time, 3 years ago, right, sweetie? No. Yeah. I called a friend who's a doctoring guy. Actually, he's somebody that we have kind of mentored along. You know, we helped him with his pipe, and we helped him with fasting, and we helped him with sweat lodge and stuff, and just help him, you know, whenever he needed guidance along. So when this news came, I called him. Said, hey, can you come and doctor me? You know, I'd rather see you than start chemotherapy and, you know, that stuff, radiation. He said, okay, yeah, and he came. And Sweetie and I gave him almost all of our traditional items, exception of this pipe and hers. But a lot of the things that we had acquired, you know, we gave him things that were important to us. We needed, but, you know, not more important than my life. So he worked on me one time, and I was thinking it would be 3, 4, 5 times, or, you know, just once. And he got me, he got it. So how that worked was, we got that news, we had to go to Grand Traverse, Michigan to work for 2 days. You know, my thought was right away, I gotta keep working, I gotta get money for my family, I can't stop, you know. So I asked him to come over, and we had a sweat lodge, and he doctored me in there, kind of like I did with someone else the other night. Same thing, same way. We left there and we went to Grand Traverse, and Sweetie and I worked there for 2 days. And I was supposed to come back and talk with the cancer people about my options of when to start radiation and chemo and all that whole process. So I thought I had a week after we got home. It was like a 4-day trip for us. And I was gonna get Jeremy to come back again. You know, talk to me again before we go. And we got the date, it was on Sweetie's calendar, and it was like the Monday, like the day after we got back. So I couldn't see Jeremy again. So we went there, and some other stuff was going on too, where I was offered more work at Grand Traverse. I was offered to take over somebody's work there, which would have like quadrupled our income. And this is during COVID. But it wasn't, it was kind of shady, you know. I knew the guy and I liked him and I didn't want to take his work and stuff. We'll get into that another time. So I go in and they put the scope through my nose and down my throat and they're checking stuff. And she's like, hey, you're good. There's a little bit of scar tissue left, but everything's fine. You know, we don't have to proceed right now. Let's just keep an eye on this. Come back in another 6 months, we'll look at stuff. But we don't have to do surgery now. What have you been doing? I'm like, so native medicine. My friend's been helping me. She's like, well, keep doing what you're doing. And I left the hospital office. Sweetie had got the call about taking over that job. So the thing was, do I resign with this guy, you know, and have no job? That was with the position we were at. My friend Keith, he's a healer too. He was resigning, and I was going to too with him, because the issue was happening there. But Grand Traverse had offered me his position, along with mine. So I come out of the hospital building. I just got my life back. Yeah, you're okay. And then they said to Sweetie, hey, you know, if we get rid of Keith, then you can just take his job here and, you know, quadruple your income. And I'm like, man, I just got my life back and the spirits are dangling a big bag of money in front of me. You know, what are you gonna do? You gonna do the right thing or not? And, you know, at the time, that's all we had. That job was all we had through COVID. And I said, let's go home and sign our resignation and send it in. And we did, not knowing how we're gonna live. Where's our food money gonna come from, or, you know, anything. We had no money. But we did that because we had faith, you know. We were being tested, especially me. Okay, we're gonna give him his life, let's see what he does now, you know, kind of thing. And we survived. We scraped through, and we managed, and life got better. And I haven't had any effects so much. You know, I don't see it as the negative part of it. You know, you're sick, you're going to die. It's, you're being tested, what are you going to do? That's the thought. That needs to be, you know, not focusing on the black parts. It's the light of it. What am I going to do with this opportunity that I have? Yeah. It wasn't easy getting to a point where you're calling that an opportunity. It's not. Yeah. Any other questions, anyone?
I was curious what the rest of the pipe is made of.
So, that's a good question. So this is a newer stem. It came from a guy named, he's deceased now. John LaFord was his name. He was an artist actually from my area. Gave me this. And he passed away just a couple of years ago in his 70s. And he said he got this when he was in his teens. And he'd been hanging on to it for the right the right place for it to go. So when they presented this to me, because it was in the museum, you know, it was just the bowl part. There was no stem. So they had made one out of a piece of pine that was struck by lightning, but it didn't really fit well. And it was bigger and it was kind of crooked. And they had stained it with a deck stain color. Wasn't that greatest, you know. But I used it. So first ceremony I went to by myself with this, I met that guy there, Jimmy. And he brought this. He said, "Oh, I've been hanging on to this for you for 55 years. I'm like, okay. So I took it and it just, perfect. Like, you know, there was no changes made to that. All the years that he had it, just, even the part that fits in was just made for this. You know, it just fits perfectly. Later in time, you know, my wife, we added on his design from here, on here. And so this is like a maple, or an old maple. Black canalite, or pipestone. There's a vein of this in my community where I'm from. That's where he was harvested from, and then lead from musket balls, the 1700s. And that's it. I do have this is recent for us, Sweetie and I. We were at a place called Saugeen in Manitoba, a Ojibway community. And they had gifted us this bag. You know, it's over 300 years old. It's trade beads on here. It looks like old cardboard, and leather is so old. But the old fellow there, it would belong to his dad. And he had told us that somebody from my community had come there then, 300 and something years ago, and gave them this bag. So they had kept it all this time and kept it in use. It wasn't they didn't treat it like an artifact. It was, you could see it's well used. And when we came, Eric Shane, he had it. He's in his 70s. He said, "This is for you." Belongs, this old pipe bag, you know, tobacco bag belongs with that old pipe. It came from where you guys are from. It needs to go back with together. You know, and the odd thing about that, the floral pattern on here, you know, goes from red to yellow. You know, it's the same as the floral pattern that I put on mine. You know, when we made that 14, 15 years ago. Like, you know, all the stuff like that happened. It was meant to be. Yeah. Anything else? Anyone? There's not a whole lot of ceremony discussion in the book. This mostly is what brought us together. It's about us and our relationship and how we feel and the impossible things that happen in life that you think will stop, you know, things, but it doesn't. How resiliency, how not just me, but a people, and how the spirits are resilient with us. How they take care of us all along, and we didn't even know. You know, you hear that in a lot of different things. Oh, they were never with me, they never helped me, but meanwhile they were carrying you the whole time, and you didn't even know, you know. Yeah, this is the story of how we started. You know, maybe there'll be another book later that shows what we did together. I don't know yet. We'll see. But it's been quite a journey. You know, the first 9-10 years, 8 years was me by myself. The last 8, it's been with my wife and family now. We travel as a unit, working together. I prefer it this way better. Yeah. So I don't know if there's, yeah.
So what brought you out of your Ojibway comfort zone where you work and stuff to take a step outside and share these ways? How did that happen? How did that?
You want to help me with that?
Well, I came in after the fact.
There was a few events, specific events actually. One that comes to mind that's, it's not embarrassing for me, but it's humbling. Okay, I grew up being taught that these things are for us. You know, our healing and our language and our cultural knowledge and our ceremony life is not to be shared because we're sick and have enough already, you know, healing ourselves and taking care of ourselves and to just bring it other places or bring other people in. There just isn't enough for that. We're lacking. That was the idea. That's most of the idea of a lot of Ojibway communities. And mine was like that also. So I grew up learning that, you know, this is only for us to be well. You know, everyone else can go to the doctor and stuff. So when I started my ceremonies with Niishawswea early on, I went to a place called Guyon on Manitoulin Island, right near a reservation called Pipe-Niishawswea. And the medicine guy from that community wanted me to bring my shake tent, answer questions. His brother was chief of the community also, and he had leadership questions, what to do. So I said, okay. So I went, and my oldest son was with me. He was 16 at the time. And we got there, and we're standing around, you know, I'm just shooting the breeze with everyone, and this car pulls in, and this lady gets out, and she's wearing a white buckskin outfit with purple and blue beads and feathers on it, and her hair is like bright red, you know, just white as a sheet. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, what is that? I'd never seen this before, like a ceremony. And it was this guy's Jake place. I'm like, who's this? What's going on here? And he's like, oh no, it's okay. That's my veterinarian. She takes care of my dog. She's a good lady, it's okay. And I was uncomfortable. Because that would be my first time, you know, being in ceremony with non-Ojibway people. And that just didn't feel right to me. You know, and I had that thinking at that time, there's so many of our people that are sick, I'm going to be busy my whole life. I don't need to go anywhere else. So, where she reaches in her car and then she pulls out this towel, puts it over her arm like that, and I'm like, I looked at him and I'm like, is she going in Sweat Lodge too? He's like, oh yeah, she's coming in there too. And I was like, oh no. And I started to get anxious and freaking out, you know. So we go in lodge, and my son's in there with me, sitting beside me. And everyone's talking and saying their prayers in there, taking their turn. And it gets to that lady, she starts talking, and I could see some spirits, some more lights around her in the beginning. And then she gets into the stories about stuff, like she's talking to people and not saying a prayer. and those lights just kind of leave. And I'm bumping my son in there, you know, see, her spirit's not even want to listen to her, she shouldn't be in here, you know, she's in the wrong place. And I'm getting upset, and I'm in a sweat lodge, supposed to be praying, and I'm mad in there. And my son's taking my lead. Yeah, you know, and he's following exactly everything I'm projecting. Which, if that event didn't happen, that would have been just the norm, you know, there. So we get out, and I said to him, later tonight when we're doing Shakedown, don't let that lady come up and ask questions. I don't want her up there. Okay. So we get ready, and it's dark. You know, it's a nighttime ceremony. We shut the lights off. It just happened we were in their hall of their community, like a gym. You know, just the exit red lights were on. So we shut all the lights off. I went through my spiel, explained how it works, and you know, history about it and stuff. And that lady wasn't there. And I was okay. So we had a number of how many people were all coming. And we shut the lights off and started, and my son started bringing people up once at a time. Well, that lady snuck in under the cloak of darkness. She came in like after we had started. She just kind of snuck in and sat down on a spot, and my son didn't notice. And he just helped her up there and set her in front, and she put her stuff in, and you know, it was a bunch of coins and some loose tobacco. And as soon as I heard those coins make noise, I knew it was that lady. And she started to talk, and I'm like, man. And she's talking and talking and talking and talking, and she's not expressing any emotion or asking anything serious. She's explaining things. She's explaining events in her life like she's talking to a therapist or something. And that's not why you're here. You know, you're very brief and you're very specific to the issue at hand. Because there's 35 other people sitting outside here waiting for their turn. And finally she's going on like, that seemed like a very long time. And then she broke down and started to cry and said, I don't know my purpose in life, why I'm here. And, you know, my shake tent, when it's working, there'll be orbs of light people see on a regular. That's the normal. But at that time, it went light like a floodlight on in there. Like I turned on a big flashlight, and it just stayed bright. And for me, I could see like an apartment building with the wall missing. I could see people in the different levels just living life, doing their daily things. And I'm floating up. And then I see this bright light, and it's like a welding arc. It's so bright, like burning through your eyelids. You know, so my eyes were closed, and that light was so bright it was kind of giving me a headache. And I heard a guy's name, and he said to me, you know, you can come here anytime you want, but you can't ask anything for yourself. And then he said, you know, one time I helped this lady, you know, she was almost lost her life 3 times. And she's all, yeah, one time I had a car accident. I'm like, shh, you're interrupting the Creator. You know, and people that were in the crowd, just, you could hear people gasping and, you know, they could hear everything. I thought only I was hearing that, but everyone in the room was hearing that. And they were looking at the beam of light, which I only thought I could see, but everyone did. And he said to her, you know, a native guy's gonna come into her life at some point, and her job is to help him. He needs her to carry on in life. That's her job. the things that he will be doing will be, immense, the amount of people that he helps. But he can't do it unless she helps him along. That's why she's here. And then it just went dark, and we were done, and she left there feeling, she floated away on a cloud, that lady, just happy, glowing. And then we were done, that night, and I felt like a jackass. And I just felt bad, and first thing come to my mind was my son. He's just a little puppet, following what I'm doing, how I'm thinking and things I'm saying. And so I apologized to him greatly. I'm never going to say who comes here and who doesn't. Which was a big deal for me. That was my first time I opened the door for everyone. And I knew I would get a lot of feedback from that, from our people. And we have. But I see beyond that now. So we're open for everyone. That's how that experience happened for me. So I got my spiritual spank that night. Hard, I got a hard spanking. And that lady, that Pocahontas looking lady is the one who helped me out with that. And I'm grateful now. It's opened the door for us to help people who would not have got it without us. And we've met some good people since. It's their light now I see, not their community or, their tribe. It's the person who needs help. That's how my view had changed. That's how that all worked out for me. I was never like that, and now I am. I was flawed in a lot of ways. I'm still working on things. Yeah, that's one instance. Any other questions? Anyone? There's always a challenge. There's always something that happens. There's always, it seems like things are never just coast along nice. There's ups and downs, It's never just easy. And they're always putting a challenge in front of you to see what you're going to do. How long are they going to endure feeling miserable like this before we give them something awesome? It's always been like that for us. And being thankful for what you do have still while you're going through that. They're always humbling you all the time, I find. Which kind of brings me to everyone that was involved all through the years, like the curator of the museum and the archaeologist, for finding this. We don't harbor anything. I'm thankful. I really am. I'm thankful that archaeologist found that and took care of that. Took him home and kept him in his house. I'm so thankful he did that. And the museum kept him in that case, safe. Yeah, it's so easy I could look at it a different way. But I tend to see the good in that. Why he's here now. It's because of that. I'm thankful. You're good. I could talk all night. I could. So, my wife's brother had passed some time ago, and this guy Zach, he's our helper, our ceremony helper. He comes with us sometimes. Or Scott Davis, we call him. He did the funeral for Sweetie's brother. He ran a traditional funeral. And he sang this song there, this beautiful song. And it struck Sweetie. So she had been after him for a while to learn it, and it came, and we practiced it together. And normally that song would be sang just one person, but we learned it the way we did, and it worked for us. And so Saging had asked us to come and do water drum teachings, which I thought was weird because they're all elders there and they all know, but they wanted us to come and share. So we did, and then we're doing our talk and talking. Okay, we just want to hear you sing that. So we did. We sang that song. And as we're singing, you know, a bunch of people, elderly people, started standing, and they were crying. And I'm thinking, oh, I hope this isn't a bad thing, you know, or what's going on here. And they're smiling, but they're got tears in their eyes. And they all start standing up. So when we finished, they thanked us, and they told us when they were young, like young, really young, their teacher is deceased, Peter O'Cheese. He's really well known up north where we're from. He was on a fast, and all those people were there when he was fasting. He was on a 4-day fast, and when he was out there, that song came to him. And when he came off his fast, he told all them guys to share this song, send it out. It's for all of us, Ojibwe people. So they sent it. So Sweetie and I brought it back. They were all old people. It came from there. They were the ones that sent that song out, and we brought it back to them. And that's why they were all reminding them of their old teacher. You know, his song, one of his songs. So it was just one of the woo moments, you know. So, yeah, we like to sing that one together. Mark's gonna sing one also. We'll let him go first. Explain, you know, what it's about and